Alright, so a few days ago I put out a post on my community tab and asked my viewers to send me their hottest takes on Honkai Star Rail, and I received quite a lot of responses, which I'm very grateful for. But before we get into those, there's a few things I want to say. First off, me and some of the other content creators in the Express Train Discord server recorded a podcast, and the first episode will be out in the next few days. I'll make a community post when that ends up going live. I also want to say that I do have a Twitter, link in the description. I probably won't use it much, but if you want to follow me, that's nice. Anyways, let's just get into it. So the first one is, Break isn't nearly as boring as people make it out to be, and they only view it that way because of Firefly. Boothill and Rap are really cool and interesting. I actually agree with this. I think that a lot of saying a character is boring or fun is just personal preference. Because, I don't know, I think blowing everything up in a cool robot is fun, but, that's just my own personal preference, though I do prefer Boothill's gameplay more. But I mean, I don't think that's really because of Break being boring. I think that's just because of the character itself being boring. You know what I mean? So yeah, at the end of the day, that's really just personal preference. The storytelling sucks in all planets except Belobog. Yeah, I actually kind of agree with this. I think that Honkai Star Rail's storytelling has really gone downhill. I really don't think it was as bad in the early days because we didn't really know what to expect from this game so far. And since it's older, it does get more of a leniency, and you would expect the quality to go up over time, but it hasn't, and that's the biggest problem right now and why people are so angry. So actually, I really do think this is true. Next up is, Lycombe banner should be guaranteed. Yeah, I 100% agree with this. Wuthering Waves has the weapon banner guaranteed, and everybody loves it. People are very happy with that. And I would love that in Star Rail, especially because losing a 75-25 feels worse than losing a 50-50. And it also gives them more of an excuse if they want to make Lycones that are so broken, because you can get them so easily. So I really do hope they put this in the game. This game does get pretty expensive pretty quickly, so you might want to save some money with it. And if that's the case, I might recommend checking out lootbar.gg. LootBar is a website that offers cheaper top-ups for games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and many other games. LootBar offers a 23% discount on top-ups compared to the official in-game stores. And if you're using LootBar for the first time, you can get an 8% discount coupon. Let me show you how it works. So first you go over and enter your UID. No login info is needed. Then you go select the pack that you want. There are many different ones to choose from, and if you buy the bigger ones, you still get the discount. And if you top up for the first time, you get the double bonus as well. After paying, simply wait a few minutes, open the game, and there you go. There's your Jades. LootBar is a very trusted site, with millions of customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and partner with many famous creators. This is legit as the site uses a VPN to cheapen the Jades from official top-up routes. I've used it myself many times and saved tons of money with them. So if you're interested in LootBar, check it out in the link in the description and pinned comment. Back to the video. Alright, the next one by Zani Wua, nice name by the way, is Firefly is extremely overrated and overhyped. She may be good as a DPS, but she had great potential to have a great character def, but she got reduced to waifu bait very quickly. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with this. Firefly is not the most interesting character. Anybody who is not really biased towards Firefly will tell you that her character is extremely boring. Throughout most of Pentaconi, she was basically nothing but the MC's girlfriend, and that was kind of boring. I think they could have done a lot more with her, I really do. I mostly just like Firefly because I like Sam. Other than that, I could really care less. Alright, next up we have, because HSR is a live service game, some characters are going to fall out of the meta and become niche picks. It's just the fact that the meta will shift faster than Hoyo can tweak things. Sunday, and they say Jiao Cho, but I think they mean Jing Yuan, was a fluke that only happened because Hoyo needed summon support for future release. Really is mostly a money decision IMO, but trying to stay in game. Okay, let's talk about this. So, yes, that will happen. Things will fall out of the meta, but the problem is things fall out of the meta and they just never come back. Jing Yuan was pretty much the only exception for that rule. And like, if you like an older DPS, you're kind of fucked, to be honest. You kind of are. What's important when it comes to power creep is the way that they handle it. The way that they handle power creep in Honkai Star Rail is so bad. I mean, I would like one day to have supports for, like, your Zeelas, your Blades, your Jing Lius, and that would actually bring them back up to, like, maybe Jing Yuan's level. Yeah, I don't really know if I don't know if I'd say I disagree or agree. But yeah, I get where it's coming from. So this next one is pretty long, so I'm not going to read it all, but it basically says, Star Rail storytelling is not as bad people make it out to be. Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree, and I think especially that's because we have games like Wuthering Waves and Zenless Zone Zero, and Zenless Zone Zero especially, who's presenting their story so much better than Honkai Star Rail's. it's really disappointing to see. And the fact that this is a Hoyoverse game, and they could easily just take what they're doing in Zenless and put it in Star Rail, but they don't, and that's really the big problem. Especially because now we have a 10-hour long story, so you can see the problems being amplified to 11. I mean, I personally didn't really like what they were talking about. I thought it was very boring. This person brings up an example of the fight against the Strife King. I thought that fight was fine. The problem with the Agalia interrogation scene is they didn't seem scared, they didn't seem confused, they didn't seem nervous. They just seemed like, oh, okay, we're here now. Especially for an interrogation scene, you think it would have some more expression. I think their lack of expression in the black screens are really, really hurting the story right now. I think they gotta really step up the presentation of the story, and then maybe we'll have a much better story, you know? Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with this take, but I mean, I do see the potential that can hopefully get better. Next one is Ruan Mei fell off. Not really. I mean, the break meta is what she's really good for. I don't want to say made for because I don't really agree she was made for break. But I don't really think she fell off. Maybe outside of break she did, but the fact that break is such a meta relevant archetype, I don't really think it's fair to say that she fell off. This is another really long one, but it essentially has two hot takes. The first one is HSR's trap of being so generous is a blessing in disguise. Yeah, I agree with that. The thing about it is, if you need all those pulls to be able to, get the new shit and have a chance to clear, then you're not really being that generous. Say a game gave out 200 pulls, but you only needed like 50 of them, then that would be generous. If the game gave out 1,000 pulls, but you need 1,000, then it's not really that important. It's not really that big of a deal. And they compare it to Genshin, which, yes, I agree. I do think Genshin at this point is more generous than Honkai Star Rail, even though they do give out less pulls because you don't need the pulls as much. And the second take it here is Honkai Star Rail characters don't feel real. They're important for their banner period, after that they leave. Story quests, voice lines, character stories, and events make you feel connected to the character in Genshin, so pulling because you like them is valid. In HSR, it's kit, power, design with a small minority of characters, story. Yeah, I feel like in Honkai Star Rail, we're not as parasocial with our characters. I guess I actually did talk about this a little bit on the Express Train podcast a little bit. Whenever that episode goes up, you'll see me talking about it. Where Honkai Star Rail characters, they don't feel like characters. We don't get birthday arts, we don't get birthday letters, we don't get anything like that. And to not have that, it just feels like you're pulling for kit and design. And mostly you're going to have the pull for kit because of how fucking ridiculous the current power creep situation is. So, yeah, I do think both of these points are actually really true. Next up is, the fan works add more substance and do more justice than most of the characters in the game itself ever will. This is sad but true. I really wish Honkai Star Rail did a better job at keeping their groups still relevant and still showing up. I think in Zenless Zone Zero they do a really good job at this. Like in Asher Yao's trailer, you could see all the factions, and I thought that was a really cool thing to add. But in Honkai Star Rail, if they forget about you, you're probably gone forever, and it kind of sucks. And I think a perfect example of this is a character like Kafka. Kafka was not in the game from like 1.2 to now, but it felt like she kept showing up because the fans and the other type of fans kept her relevant. And I wish Honkai Star Rail did a better job at adding more to their characters when it comes to substance and lore that are older characters, not just the new ones. So yeah, I agree with this take. Agalia is an insult to the HSR community. Finally, Jing Yuan got a resurgence, and now almost instantly they feel the need to power creep him again after one patch. It's like the HSR devs were like, darn it, Sunday made this 1.0 unit good. Okay, let's quickly release this new unit. We can't have this 1.0 unit be good. Yeah, I agree. I think Agalia is a very strange character. I really like her design. I like her character, but the fact that she's lightning and a summon unit really felt like it was a direct target to how good Jing Yuan is post-Sunday. I think they should have made her element like maybe ice or something, or they could have maybe even did the dreaded imaginary element. Having more female imaginary characters would be quite nice. But yeah, I think it feels like a direct jab at Jing Yuan, which I think kind of sucks. So yeah, I do agree with this take. I don't know about calling her an insult, but it definitely does feel like they're trying to really not have the 1.0 unit be good. Thinking Fei Xiao is hot doesn't make you a furry. Shit, bro, if it did, then I guess I'm a furry. Text on black screen and unvoiced dialogue are both good things for the story and writing. Text cutscenes allow to convey and tell things that would be impossible or costly to do via animations or in-game engine cutscenes. Non-voice dialogue is more flexible because you can change it, update it as needed without redoing the voice acting. This is definitely a hot take. The text cutscenes allow it to convey the things to be impossible or costly to do via animations. The only time I think this is okay is if they're saying, like, the next day. Like, they did that in Zenless a few times and I thought it was fine. But when you're doing that to essentially cut corners on showing your story, then I think we have a problem. As for non-voice dialogue is more flexible because you can change and update it as needed. I mean, if the thing's already out, why would you change the dialogue unless there's something wrong? And for cost, I think they have enough money to do it. They have like, what, $25 billion? They have the money to make it happen. Personally, I gotta disagree with this. Next one is, characters aren't bad. Either you don't know how to use them fully or the content for them to shine just hasn't been out yet. Yeah, I disagree with this take. Some characters are just terrible. That's just how it is. Some of them are just objectively fucking terrible. It doesn't really matter if you don't know how to use them fully, because even if you do know how to use them fully, a lot of them are still going to be garbage, and that's just kind of how it is. And when it comes to the content for them to shine, I don't think there's ever going to be a place for characters like Arlen or Yukong to shine. I really don't. Dr. Ratio was the worst possible character they could have given out for free. The 4-star options for his team suck and do not have any synergies with this kit. He requires a heavy investment into relics and ornaments, and his AoE damage is non-existent. He was a trap for new players. This is actually a really interesting one. I've thought about this a lot myself too. That if they're trying to drag in new players with the free 5-star, Dr. Ratio is one of the worst candidates for it. He needs a lot of stats. He needs really good investment. He really wants his 5-star teammates. I found it kind of weird that he was the one that they gave us. I mean, I'm not complaining about a free 5-star, and over time he did get a lot better with his team, but it was a weird character to give out for free, and I would never recommend building him as like a very new player where you have basically nothing, because pretty much the only synergy you can get is like Tingyun and Pella. It was not very good. So yeah, I 100% agree with this, though I am still grateful for the free Doctor Ratio. I really gotta build him again. Nihility units are incredibly inferior and not worth pulling for. The only reason Jiao Cho is pulled for is because of Acheron's kit needing a Nihility unit. She's forcing you to use a Nihility unit. If that wasn't in her kit, there would be no reason to pull a Nihility unit. I don't even know if Acheron would even count as a Nihility just because she's your crit DPS disguised as multiple paths. Alright, this one actually makes a lot of sense. Nihility units are incredibly inferior and not worth pulling for. Yeah, the thing is, because Nihility is such a weird path. They have DOT, debuffers, hell, even damage dealers now. It's super weird. I don't really know what they're trying to do with that, but it feels like just their random bullshit go path. And if Acheron did not have that requirement, honestly, she might even be stronger. However, there is a thing that Waveman brought up where he said she can take advantage of the weaker characters, which is a good thing. But I wonder, would she be better if she could just use Sunday and Robin instead of using Jiao Cho? Even though Jiao Cho was entirely designed in a lab to shield her, it does really make me wonder. But yeah, I do agree, there's basically no reason to pull a Nihility unit unless you have Acheron. Other than that, there's basically no reason to ever pull Jiao Cho. And yeah, I actually think this is a really good take. I'm going to agree with this one. Argenti is criminally underrated. He's not only good for PF, but also MLC and Apoc Shadow. He should be getting more recognition. I agree with this. I feel like Argenti gets way less credit than he deserves to. He's a pretty solid character, especially in Pure Fiction. He is really good. And in MOC and Apoc now, especially, I think he is going to do a lot better. And the good thing is he can also be used with Herta, so that could be a team option for him now, which is nice. I am glad to see him getting some love. I think that's really good. Aventurine is the best boss in the game because it has an actual mechanic you can't just brute force, and people who complain about RNG are those that try. I wouldn't say the best boss, but he is definitely up there. I'd say he is one of the better bosses in the game. I do not like his boss because I think it's annoying, but that is good boss design. I think he is pretty good, but he can be very, very annoying. But overall, yeah, I do agree that he is one of the best bosses. Topaz is very overrated and Hunt March 7 is a better character. 1. The damage between the two is fairly similar, no reason to waste money on. 2. Hunt March has weakness ignore unlike Topaz, which makes March more flexible on the teams. 3. March is more SP friendly than Topaz. 4. She's free. Yes, Star Rail is incredibly flawed, but at least we get cracked units like Hunt March and HMC for free. I think a lot of people forget that Topaz gives 50% vulnerability to follow-up attacks, which is quite nice to have. No, I disagree with this. I think Topaz is still the better character. March 7th is very, very good still, sure, but I do still think that Topaz is the better character. Alright, and I saved this one for last because I feel it's the most interesting. I really feel like HSR would have been better off not turn-based. For the way the combat is set up, you have to put so much faith in your stats, way more than most other gacha games to be fair. It's pretty much required to run a sustain since everybody just face tanks the damage, unless you have a light counter character with self-healing. Why is there no dodge chance percent, but there's fucking effect res? Honestly, I kind of agree. I feel like Honkai Star Rail just feels so underdeveloped. I think we could have had a lot more when it comes to combat, but it feels very bare bones. I think it might be because they want to lean towards more of a kid audience, but I don't know. I feel like we could have had a lot more when it comes to the combat, like a dodge or a block or something, but instead we just get effect res. I really feel like we could have had more in the combat, which I hope we get one day, but honestly I doubt it. And that's all there is to it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as it really does help me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.